Hey, everybody, we're here for the new episode of Five for Talking. I'm here with Caps, the captain of the show. I want to do an NHL talk today, but I don't think that there's a point considering that the other two series are right about to end. Potentially, Edmonton could lose tonight as we're filming this. So, let's talk about at least what we know for sure. So, Carolina's in the next round, and the Leafs are not in the next round. I would like to go through this again as the teams progress. So probably for next week, talking about what we think will happen. As far as it is right now, and talking NHL, I think Carolina is going to win the cup. I'm 100% behind them. I was behind them before the Leafs even lost. I don't. After watching that series, which we'll get into it more. I don't think the Leafs had a shot at winning the cup this year. So that being said, before we talk about Leafs, because I'm guessing we're just going to stay there, do you think Florida has a chance to beat Carolina? And not like it's going to be a close series, like a legit chance to beat Carolina.
Based on how they played against the Leafs and played against Boston, I think they do. I think Carolina's got the experience and the overall depth, and I think they're just better. But however, we said the same thing about Boston and Toronto. So I think Florida's got a shot, and I think they could do some real damage here.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about those, or are you good with NHL?
I'm just shocked over the fact that Seattle's made it this far. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know how it's possible.
I said to you guys yesterday, there's the thing that really like messes with my head is that there's a really, really, really good shot that we're gonna get Vegas versus Seattle in the conference finals, which is like two teams that have both entered the league in the last 5 years. One of them has already made a finals appearance. And, it's kind of crazy, especially with Seattle's team. If you look at their team on paper, if someone who watches hockey and they didn't watch any of this season, there was never any idea what happened this year, and I showed them Seattle's roster on a piece of paper, you would automatically assume they didn't even make the playoffs. So I mean, good for Seattle. I mean, I think it's cool, but I'm sure Dallas doesn't. We'll see how that goes. Do you think?
I just don't get it. I don't get it at all.
I mean, Seattle is the Florida Panthers of the Western Conference this season.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So let's.
It's funny because Florida was first place last year.
Yeah, me and you have been. No, we've never been down on Florida this entire season. They just weren't in the mix.
Yeah, I just didn't think that they would do the damage that they were doing. I thought they were good. I knew for a fact that Florida was going to give Boston some problems. I just didn't think that was going to happen. What actually happened.
Well, and granted, even them beating Boston, we still weren't convinced that they could beat the Leafs.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, you were going to ask a question, I think.
Oh, that doesn't even matter. Your thing was way better, but what do the Leafs do?
Huh.
But before we go into super detail with it, give me like the most blatant, basic, right off the bat. What do you do immediately? It could be anything.
What can they do? I mean, the fact of the matter is that they got three players that I know for a fact nobody's going to touch their contract. And and probably won't trade for it because two of them have a no movement clause. Matthews, I don't know what he does. He's just like next year, like they've already talked about the fact that Arizona is going to offer him the world. But I don't know. Nylander's going to want more money. That's a given. He is not going to re-sign for the same amount of money that he's going to that he's getting right now. If there's any shot of keeping these guys together, Tavares is going to have to take a pay cut in the next negotiation, which is like 2 years from now. There's no way he's getting the same amount of money. So you ask,
sorry, go ahead.
You ask, what do they do?
Like, what's your first move? If you had to, you can only make one move. You can fire, you can hire, you can trade, you can cut. Just you tell me what you do.
I think Keefe has had his shot, and I think it's time for another coach, because, and the only reason why I come to this conclusion is because nobody's going to take these players. The players are going to have to stick together. So if you're going to run it back again, you might as well get another coach there to try and see if.
And you have 1 year left.
Yeah, and you're going to have to see if that coach can do something different that Keefe couldn't do. I re-signed Shen because I think he deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
I give him Justin Hull's money. Hull can go. I try. There's a rumor going out there that they're going to use Murray. They're going to convince Murray. They're going to say that Murray's incapable or not physically able to play next year, and they're going to use his contract and Muzzin's contract for some cap relief. So maybe they can try something. I see if I can get Achari back. O'Reilly. I mean, he was getting paid what, $6 million, I believe is that was his.
I want to say yes. I didn't look at O'Reilly's
because I know the Leafs were paying him 1.8. Man, if he can take a Giordano type deal, man, that would be awesome. Give him some leverage. Woll and Samsonov are capable of playing with this team. I don't think they need Murray. So that will give them some. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. And if just to tag on to that, I won't give my full thoughts yet, but just to tag on to that one specific thing, I said it in the group. If I'm the Leafs, we both know Samsonov and Wall are fine. That's a fine team.
They're fine.
And you do the thing with Murray, sure, okay, I'm good with that. You go into this draft, I don't care. I know a lot of people are not going to like this, and they're going to have mixed feelings. You draft you use your first 2 picks. I don't know what they have. You get defensemen, and then every remaining pick, you draft a goalie. I don't care if you draft 5 goalies, you draft 5 goalies, and you just park them somewhere because you need a pipeline. This is where something that the Leafs, compared to other NHL teams, have never done. They've never just had a pipeline of goalies where they can pick the next guy. Like Wall is the first one in a long time, because when we had Bebo, he turned out to be trash, and Sparks ended up not being what we thought Sparks was going to be. So I think it doesn't hurt to have a guy that potentially is your Vasilevsky or your Hellebuck. You know what I mean? And goalies don't go first. Goalies don't go in the first round anyways, unless it's Carey Price.
Exactly. It'll be interesting. I mean, they're going to have Nyes next year.
Yeah, and that's why I was high on moving Nylander, because I think Nyes can easily slot in and take his spot.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest here, and I don't know how everybody thinks about it, but I don't think they need Bunting.
I don't think you need Bunting either. You know what?
For more money, I don't think, because I don't think anybody takes him seriously.
I want to just point this out too. We were all 3 of us were pretty big fans of Bunting, and the way that he's regressed and that he's rubbed us the wrong way, and he's been doing that since probably the All-Star break. Like, none of us have had good things to say about him since the All-Star break. It's
Yeah.
only progressively got worse and worse and worse.
I think if he keeps his attitude in check, or like his,
But he's not a first line guy. That shit
no,
has
I
to
don't think
stop.
so at all. I don't think so at all. I think that's what they need. I think they need to find somebody that will complement, and I'm not talking about in terms of skill. I'm talking about someone that will complement Matthews and Marner, because Matthews and Marner are the guys that have the skill to quarterback that line, or you know what I mean? They don't need someone just as skilled as them. They can't afford it. There's no way that it's going to
I
happen.
think you fill that spot with a guy who has decent goal scoring ability. He can pass the puck, and he's a really strong defensive player.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's nice. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, that's not a bad. You know what? I didn't even think of that. That's not a bad option.
But something's got to happen with Nylander and Tavares. They just don't have the chemistry. They don't. I don't know if you spread it out. I don't know if you do something, maybe take Marner off the first line. I don't know what it is, but it just seems as though there's something off with Tavares and Nylander, because it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I don't know. And that's the thing about when you brought up the whole Keith thing in the chat, because at first I was like, then I thought about it pretty quickly, and then I said, you know what, you're right. Maybe it is a coaching thing, and the coach needs to find a way to make that line work. But,
yeah. Well, okay. Look, coaching wise, let's look at it. Let's look at it from a different aspect. Let's take my personal opinion on it out. Okay. Regardless of whether or not I think he's a good coach. Okay.
I think so too.
Yeah. It's. I want to look at it from the aspect. What has he done? He's literally done nothing good. Like zero good things.
I think it's just trying to find the right fit. It's just.
But it was so much movement. To have that much movement throughout the last 3 seasons and to not have found a fit at all is crazy to me. That tells me you're the problem.
That whole sticking the lines in the blender, like, I mean, I think that went on way too long or way too late.
I would kill.
Maybe he was waiting.
Maybe
he was just waiting until after the trade deadline until he got all his players to do that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you think?
It's possible. I mean, but I still don't agree with it. It's not what I would do. You have to have some kind of stability, right? Yeah. And your whole thing with the Marner situation, I agree with you, because in past conversations we talked about who works well with who, but we notice now that Marner, as good as he had of a season this year, didn't help Matthews do anything. You know what I mean? So maybe Matthews playing with Nylander might shake it up. Marner was great this year. I'm not going to take it away from him, but he didn't help Matthews be any better. Marner just creates, and that's great. I think I want to take a long, hard look at what you can do in these situations, because, like, for me, I don't care how good of a season he had the first year. I will die on this hill. John Tavares has never once been worth the amount of money we're paying him since he's been on the Leafs. 0% of the time. Not even in one game was he worth that much money.
Yeah, and I can only imagine, like, Nylander, when his next contract is up, or his current contract is up, he's going to use Tavares as a negotiation tactic to up his salary, up
for
his
sure.
You know what I mean? Because it's like,
he's been the most
productive. This guy 11, I'm getting 7, and what, like, and that's why they won't be able to keep all of them after next year.
You're looking at arguably 3 years in a row he was the best offensive performer in the playoffs. You're also looking at a guy who progressively has got better season over season. He's going to get money. He's going to get paid.
Yeah. But I
not by the Leafs, please.
Like, you know, it's so funny. I after the series was done, I kind of stayed away from all that. Like, I just don't want to talk Leafs at all. But then one article came up, and Some journalist, I think his name is Savarelli, last name is Savarelli, I think. He goes, the one guy I keep all of them is Nylander. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of drugs are you on? Like, how are you going to model your team after a guy who doesn't battle, doesn't go into the corners, doesn't dig out pucks? Like, how do you come to that conclusion? I don't understand
Yeah,
that.
I don't get that
Nylander's
either.
not the guy who keep out of all of them. Sorry.
If I have a question for you. If you could make the moves, especially if you could actually make trades and potentially bolster the depth of your team, how do you feel about a first, second line of centers being Matthews Marner and moving towards the future, like the Draisaitl McDavid style, and let them both run their own lines with their own people?
I think that's possible. I don't
I
think
know
Marner's ever been a.
he's been a center for most of his career. He just struggled in the NHL to win faceoffs. That's why they kind of shifted him to the wing. But
I want to hear your thing. I want to hear what you got to say.
I think I would do that. I think I'm okay. So you want my whole breakdown? I agree with what you said. Hall is gone. I'm trying to negotiate Shen to like a minimum contract because I'm keeping him. If he wants more, I'll pay a little bit more. I try to my best with O'Reilly. My best, anything I can. I'm not re-signing Giordano. Is his contract expired?
No, he's got one more year.
Okay, I'll keep him then since he's cost literally nothing. I'm gonna do my best attempt to trade either Brody or Riley, one of the two. I'm looking to bring in a very high-end, high-profile defenseman, and that's going to be some of the money's going to come from that. I'm also 100% spending day and night trying to convince John Tavares to give me a list of teams he's willing to get traded to because he's got to go. I'm not keeping him. I know he hasn't been the worst player on our team, but for that contract and at his age and what he produces for us, it's not worth keeping him. I can have 2 William Nylanders for the cost of a Tavares. All right. I'm also debating whether or not Nylander's gone next season for me because I know a few teams would love to get Nylander, especially rebuilding teams like Anaheim that have a lot of clout to throw around, especially now that they lost the Connor Bedard sweepstakes. I'm sure they would love that. And I'm sure Chicago would love to have Morgan Riley or Brody for those prices. I'm really struggling to do that, to think like, but I go Marner Matthews. I go Matthews first line, Marner second line center, and I figure out everything after that. Or maybe you put O'Reilly on the second line center.
Like if I think we need to make it clear with the viewers, like we want Tavares on our team, but not for that kind of money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. He's not like a terrible player.
Yeah.
He's a $7.5, $8 million player max. Not a nickel more than $8 million.
Yeah.
And how much is he getting paid? 11 and a half?
I would try and convince him to take 6 his next go around.
For sure. I would give him 4 by 6, no problem. And you can move that contract.
But when we look at the situation that they are in right now, and if they are talking about making some sort of a change, the only change that they can possibly make is a coaching change. That's it.
And it's got to happen. I'm really upset because I would have loved to have taken a shot at Barry Trotz. I know that was a while ago. But I would have loved that. I also would love to see Bruce Boudreau. Those are 2 coaches with great pedigree that not only will you make the playoffs almost every year, but you're probably going to go far in the playoffs with that coach because their career has been that the entire time. Like they're probably 2 of the most consistent coaches of the modern era of hockey. It's crazy. I know I'm not taking Joe Quenneville just because of it's a bad look. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, if it wasn't for that, I'd take Joe Quenneville.
I would too.
That other crap.
What about
you
Suter?
Can't make any trains because they don't have a GM right now.
What about Sutter?
No. I just based on what he did in Calgary, I don't
That's what every single
No.
person has said to me that I've asked that question to.
Because the fact is that he's a defensive type coach, and this is not that type of team.
Yeah, but maybe if you taught this team how to play defense with their offensive abilities they already have, they'll figure it out. Maybe they need a hard-nosed coach that screams at them in the locker room the whole time. I'm not saying he's the right choice. I'm just offering
it's
an option.
It's an option. It's just
Do you fire Brendan
yeah.
Shanahan?
If I were the owners, someone had the idea of firing Brendan Shanahan and making Kyle Dubas president and GM.
I would.
Because there's a rumor out there that Dubas wanted to make some moves, but Shanahan stopped him from making certain moves. I don't know.
I'm going to go out of my way to say this. I think as a general manager, I do think Kyle Dubas would get the boot. Just because of so many years of failure. Not because he made bad trades, but just the team's with the way it's going, you have to do something. But, however, I did not know this, what you said. Now knowing this, I think I would fire Shanahan, make Kyle Dubas the president, hire another really good GM, and let him work together with Kyle Dubas to figure shit out.
Yeah.
But Keith's got to go.
That's the thing. If I'm looking at it, I think Keith is probably the one that gets the boot. I re-signed Dubas. I give him a bit of a pass over the fact that he's young and he's made some mistakes. However, in recent years, him and whoever the guy is that made up the cap that works in the Leafs organization have worked magic in trying to find ways to bring in some really good depth players and support that core four and really get other teams to take a percentage of their of the salaries. And they've done a lot of really good work in trying to make that team better every year. But yeah, I do fault him for those contracts. He was young, probably made a mistake.
He was under the gun of turning this team into a contender. Like I said, I don't think anything he's really done specifically is a reason to fire him. But I think the Leafs are at a position when you need to clear house or else it looks bad. The optics of it look bad. But however, keeping him, but moving him to become the president where he has full control of everything that happens and having another really qualified GM come in to work with him, I think that's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
But I think if you, I'll keep him as the GM personally, but I think a lot of Toronto fans, the optics is going to be really bad if you don't fire Kyle Dubas.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, too bad for a lot of the Leafs fans. I mean, that's sometimes that's.
But the Leafs are a company. Yeah, they're basically a company. They're a team that values the way that they look over winning. So.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is that, okay, you bring in a new GM. What is this new GM going to do?
Oh, I'm not disagreeing.
It's not like, no, I'm not saying you were or anything. I'm just saying it's like I'm just, like a lot of people are saying, bring a new GM. Okay, you bring in that new GM. What are they going to do? It's not like they're able to move some of the players or some of those contracts.
But maybe
are there in the first place.
I can't think of a name off the top of my head who's available. But let's say you bring in Joe GM, okay? And Joe GM has connections with a whole section of the league, maybe the Western Conference, that Kyle Dubas doesn't. And now you have them work together, and now their combined connections with the teams that they're good with making trades for works out to help you in the end. Because I don't think Brendan Shanahan's doing anything to help the Leafs. Like we don't actually know. I can't sit here and speculate because nobody knows what the president of a hockey team is doing.
Well, it's currently May 14th, 10 p.m. on a Sunday night, and tomorrow at 9 a.m. on Monday morning, they're going to have a press conference, and maybe some of these maybe some of these questions that we have might be answered tomorrow.
Yeah. So anyone watching, this video will be up tomorrow, not talking about the press conference, but we will follow up when this round is over with all the new information that we have about everything. I'm trying to think of a way to say it. Does it bother you that some people are like, well, we made it out of the first round? Because I don't think that matters. Losing in any round is just as bad as losing in the first round.
It's a step, but I'm looking at this team and the expectations, and I believe they could have gone a lot more further than the third round. I'm sorry.
I agree, because I think the moments when they were at their peak in the Florida series, they were such a better team. They just couldn't sustain that level of play. They would get there for little bursts and then just turn off.
I can't disagree with you, because you've hit all the points, man, and you're absolutely right. And it's like you live and learn. A lot of people are like, "Oh, definition of insanity," all that crap. It's like running. You're not necessarily running it back the same way again if you're making some changes here and there. All right. Yes, you have a lot of the players that are still there that are giving you these disappointing years. But if you're changing some things around, moving some players around and whatnot, it's not necessarily, the definition of insanity. And if you're coming with a new coach and you're keeping a lot of the same players, then, that's pretty much a big change right there. So I honestly, I bring a lot of these players back and I make a few tweaks here and there, and I bring in a new coach, because next year is their last shot. That's it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's their last shot, and if it doesn't get done, I just really do see two of these players, two of the top core four, or whatever the hell they are. Two of them are gone.
Yeah,
I would say.
I will. Before I end it, I'll say, well, do you have anything else?
I'm still a Leaf fan, and I don't give a shit what anybody says.
Yeah, so. I'm not going to not be a Leaf fan. I'm sorry. Like, this is where I agree with you, but also I'm against you in a way, because I'm such a Leaf fan to the point where if the Leafs are not in the playoffs, I don't want anyone else Canadian to win. Like, I'm never in my entire life ever even remotely thinking about cheering for Edmonton to win the cup. I want Connor McDavid to win personally. But if the Leafs are not there, I don't have passion to see someone else win. Both of my teams had to face each other in the first round. My two favorite teams, Tampa Bay and Toronto, was first round. And then the only other team I really love in hockey is Chicago, and they're not even in the playoffs. So it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, yeah, that's.
I know, and I get it, but I'm not going to turn on the Leafs. I agree with you on that 100%. It is what it is. I'm not going to stop being a Leaf fan. What do you like? It's just that's how it works. And the last thing I wanted to say was, I think at the end of the day, when we're looking at this roster and core four and salaries and what's coming up, I think the only like lifer that we have is Marner. Marner, I think, is going to end up staying with the Leafs forever. I think Matthews is going to walk. I think Nylander is going to get moved or signed somewhere else. And I think Tavares is going to get moved or signed somewhere else. I can see Tavares coming back when his contract expires, but I don't think, especially if you can get O'Reilly to come back, he does everything that Tavares does, but better, except score goals.
Yeah, it's just the only thing I'm worried about is next year they are all a year older, and I just hope they don't slip.
Yeah.
But let's see what happens. I think you nailed it. I think we should end it on your point.
All right, we'll end it on that. # bring back Jason Spezza. Peace out.